When is the last time you made s'mores? Crunchy, gooey, and with everyone's favorite, Hershey's milk chocolate. Whether you're making new memories with your friends beside a campfire, inviting neighbors over for a casual cookout, or cooking s'mores in the oven with your family on a rainy day, enjoy some more of each other with Hershey's S'mores. Find Hershey's milk chocolate bars at your favorite retailer. Time to s'more some more.
Hello, and welcome to Black Marriage Therapy, BMT for short. Here we become students of marriage in order to create healthy, long-lasting relationships. I'm your host, Kristen Smith, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about Dr. John Gottman's Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Dr. John Gottman can predict the downfall of any marriage with 90% accuracy by evaluating these four destructive communication styles. These are four destructive communication patterns that can lead to the downfall of any marriage. So this episode is for anyone who really wants to build a healthy, strong relationship. So this is whether you are newly married or you've been together for decades. Understanding the four horsemen can give you insight into how conflicts come up and what to do when they do. We'll walk through each of the four horsemen, which is criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And then we're going to, as we usually do, give you actionable tips in order to be able to replace these destructive habits with healthier ones. If you've been enjoying the content, please follow us on Instagram at Black Marriage Therapy. Rate us on your podcast platform and share your favorite episode with a friend. We also have a unique opportunity for you to support this podcast monthly. All you have to do is go to our show notes and click the link to support this podcast. For as little as 99 cents per month, you could partner with us to continue to provide you with high quality content. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode. I'm so excited to talk about this topic. For a long time, I've heard about the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, but I didn't think that it was ever part of our relationship. And I think that is one thing that is kind of insidious about the Four Horsemen, at least for me. It's so very easy for it to become a part of your relationship or be a part of your relationship that it's hard to pinpoint it. Right. And I think that is what I want this episode to be in its simplicity, is to help you identify what's going on. So at least you know how to address it. So in our personal marriage, I would definitely say that the four horsemen that would come up a lot is defensiveness, stonewalling, and contempt. Now, the main one, and it was coming from different people. So contempt, and listen, Junior is not on this episode to defend himself, but you can ask him, okay? He would agree with this. I would say Junior is the one that struggles with contempt, and I struggle more with defensiveness. And then stonewalling, I think we both dibble and dabble in it depending on what's going on. But I did realize over time through really reading John Gottman's book and understanding the Four Horsemen, was I able to be aware, like, oh shoot, this is me being defensive. And now it's kind of ominous because obviously it's called the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. And that is related to the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse from the Bible that basically shows the end of times. So it is ominous to think about, but listen, John Gottman did the work. He did the research. And with 90% accuracy, there's not many things that you can predict with 90% accuracy. So although it is a little bit scary or ominous, it is something that we have to pay attention to in your relationship. So I want to give you guys some insight. So simply put, we're going to go through the four horsemen and for each give you the actionable tips. And actually what John Gottman says is the answer to be able to reverse the damage. And it is possible to reverse the damage. Okay, let's start with the first one. The first one is criticism. Dr. John Gottman specifically says that criticism attacks your partner's character instead of addressing a specific behavior. So here's an example. You never listen to me. You're always on the phone when I'm trying to talk to you. I think that most people can understand what criticism is. In marriage, it may be difficult because you're just pointing out what's wrong, right? But it's very easy to point out fingers when your feelings are hurt. But when that keeps happening over and over and over and over again, you're starting to kind of chip away at the foundation of your relationship. So, according to John Gottman, consistent criticism leads to feelings of rejection and isolation in marriage. And specifically, the quote in his book says, criticism is an attack on your partner at the core of their character. So you are dismantling their whole being when you criticize them. So when you're saying, oh, you never listen to me, you're always on your phone when I'm trying to talk to you, you're trying to say that the person is inherently inconsiderate or doesn't care about you, which is really attacking their character. Now, what John Gottman says is the solution to this is a gentle startup. And what's important here is that you can address the behavior. You can talk about how you feel, but the way you do it matters. And this is how you go from a destructive communication style to a more effective communication style. So the gentle startup, what you would do is focus more on your feelings and the needs rather than attacking their character. So if we go back to the same example, which is like, oh, you never listen to me, you're on your phone all the time, yada, yada, yada. What you can say instead is, I feel hurt when I'm trying to talk to you and it seems like you're distracted by your phone. Can we set aside some time to talk without distractions? Okay, so this is you taking responsibility for your emotions with the I feel statement. You are telling them exactly how you feel when they are behaving in this way. And then you're also coming up with a solution. So, criticism as the first horseman of the apocalypse is really about attacking their character instead of addressing the behaviors. And the answer to that is a gentle startup and I statements. And we talk about that a lot in our communications episode. If you want to go back and listen to communication, you can kind of get more information on I statements. So, let's move on to the next one. The next one is contempt. Whew, man, this one. Now, contempt, John Gottman says, is the beast of all beasts. And the reason why is because you're essentially putting yourself above your partner. Like you think that you're better than them. And this is what I said, Junior is the one that struggles with this. And, this is something that we've had to bring up a couple of times where I'm like, listen, the way you sound, the way you're talking to me, it doesn't sound like you care for me, or it doesn't sound like you're trying to, work on a problem. It sounds like you think that you're better than me. So let me explain more in depth. So contempt is the single biggest predictor of divorce. Okay. This is what the research says, guys, not me, and involves attacking your partner with disrespect, ridicule, or sarcasm. Contempt creates an imbalance in the relationship where one partner feels superior to the other. That's what I was talking about, that superiority, okay? If you feel like you're better than your spouse, you need to check yourself because this can lead to the end of your relationship. This is incredibly toxic because it makes the person on the receiving end feel worthless. What's interesting about contempt is that there is nothing that your spouse can really do to fix whatever you think the problem is, because the problem is that you think that you're better than them, right? So they can be doing their best, what they believe is their best, but you would never believe that that's their best because you think you're better than them. You know what I'm saying? So it's very interesting that the person who's receiving that contempt can feel worthless. Now, going back to the research from John Gottman's book, the research shows that contempt weakens the immune system. Okay, hold on now. Hold on now. Okay, we talking about how it makes you sick. Okay. Contempt weakens the immune system, making you more susceptible to illness. This is how powerful negativity can be. Y'all, this is the doctor himself, okay? This is Dr. John Gottman. He's telling you right now that it can even make you sick. Isn't that crazy, y'all? Now, they say that marital issues and stress is on the top on the list of the things that can make you super sick or like create the most stress. Marital issues is up there in the top 5. So it's crazy that the research shows that it can make you sick. So here's a specific quote from the book that I wanted to share with you guys. It says that contempt is fueled by long, simmering negative thoughts about the partner and is expressed in the form of an attack on someone's sense of self. Dang, that is deep. Contempt is fueled by long, simmering negative thoughts about the partner and is expressed in the form of an attack on someone's sense of self. Wow. You know what's interesting about contempt, I think also, and this is interesting because I think there's some compassion on the person who has the contempt because I have talked to other couples who struggle with contempt. And usually when there's contempt involved, there is a cycle of hurt that's already happening. Now, in my relationship, I know that to be true because when we were struggling the most, there was a cycle of hurt, right? Junior was doing something to trigger me that would make me then behave in a way that would trigger him. And over time, we all have our different ways of dealing with hurt. And his way was contempt. Like John Gottman explains, is like you stop having hope in your relationship or you stop seeing the good in your partner. So you just continue with the negative thoughts, and everyone's negative thoughts leads a different way. And their negative thoughts is like, you know what? They are just at their core a trash person. You know what I'm saying? Like you just start to think like, you know what? They're just at their core a trash person. So you think that you're better than them. An example of contempt is, wow, you're so lazy. I don't even know why I bother asking you to help me. So you see how not only are they saying that you're lazy, but it's just like you are not even worth me asking to help. So you see that's how they're kind of getting to the meat. They're not just, obviously saying something rude to you, but then they're also like saying, you're not even worth me helping me. That is contempt. Now, the antidote to contempt is building a culture of appreciation. So John Gottman says that regularly expressing gratitude and respect can reduce contempt over time. Saying something like, I really appreciate how hard you work for our family can go a long way in creating a positive environment. So that is contempt. And that is the one, guys, that you want to be looking out for as much as possible. If two things, one, if you notice that you're in a cycle of hurt with your spouse, you need to keep an eye out for contempt and address that cycle of hurt so that you don't have that long streaming negative thoughts going on in your head. The second thing is if you start feeling like you are better than your spouse, you might, or you're superior in some way, you might be struggling with contempt. So I want you to look out for that. The next one is defensiveness and stonewalling. And these are similar but different. So defensiveness happens when you play the victim in order to deflect responsibility. Oh Lord. Okay, I'm about to put myself on blast. Okay. This one is me. This is the one that I struggle with the most because I feel like defensiveness, as it sounds like defending, you are protecting yourself. There is such fear on the other side of that, or a lack of responsibility that you don't want to take. I'm saying I mean me, okay? That I may not want to take, or I don't feel like belongs to me. So I get defensive. And stonewalling is when you emotionally withdraw from the conflict with no resolution or no type of communication. You're just like, oh, I was here, now I'm gone, done. Now, the thing that's interesting about these two, defensiveness and stonewalling, is that both of these behaviors escalate arguments rather than resolving them. Defensiveness leads to finger pointing. It's just like, no, it's not me, it's you, right? I got to defend myself. And usually if you're defending yourself, you're not just defending yourself, you're also blaming somebody else, right? And stonewalling leaves your partner feeling ignored and abandoned. So you are having a conversation, you disappear emotionally, or you get up and leave, you're gone. You without any type of communication, without any type of resolution, you just end. That's stonewalling. Now, here's what the research says. Y'all, I love me some research, okay? Because the proof is in the pudding, okay? He done already put all the work into figuring out that, y'all, this is what can end your relationship. So Gottman studies show that these patterns create a cycle of miscommunication that is hard to break without intervention. Oh, y'all. Listen, if that is not the truth, think about it right now. You could pause this podcast, take a moment and think about your own relationship. Are you guys in a cycle of miscommunication? Is there a constant feeling of this person don't understand me and I don't understand them? You may be experiencing defensiveness and stonewalling. Stonewalling occurs when the listener withdraws from the interaction, shuts down, and simply stops responding to their partner rather than confronting the issues with their partner. People who stonewall can make evasive maneuvers such as tuning out, So I'm not listening anymore, turning away, acting busy, or engaging in obsessive behaviors. So I feel like I just read myself. Like that's why I'm like I had to take a pause and take a breath because I just read myself a filth. I really did. Because and you know what's so hard about this is because sometimes when I'm feeling defensive, it just feels like a autonomic reaction. It just feels like something I'm not intentionally doing. I just hear something that I feel like is inaccurate, or I feel like, that's not my responsibility. And I feel like I have to stop and say, no, that's not right. And this is why I want to make you guys aware of these things, because once you're aware, as it's happening, you'll say, oh, shoot, this sounds like defensiveness. Now, the good news is that there is an antidote to defensiveness and stonewalling. John Gottman says that the antidote to defensiveness is taking responsibility, even for just a part of the issue. I think that's really good because sometimes when you're arguing or, you have some sort of conflict, especially if you feel like you're right, it's going to be very, very hard for you to find some place to take responsibility. And this took me a long time and I had to practice it because if, if my husband was saying, oh, I just feel like you don't clean up enough, I'm getting defensive. I'm like, "Oh, no, that's not this, da, da, da," all this stuff, right? So, instead of trying to defend that, I would try to find anything, any little thing I can take responsibility for. So it's just like, "You know what, babe? Oh, you're right. I did leave my cup on the table." Right? So, maybe I'm not talking about the entire house, like, "Oh, I don't clean up enough or I'm messy," or whatever like that. Maybe I don't feel at that moment that I can take responsibility for that, but what is one thing? Let me look around. Let me take a breath and find one thing. What can I take responsibility for? And a lot of times, sometimes in our conversations, to help me combat defensiveness, I will also take responsibility for how I said something, when I said something. Was it the right time to say it, right? Maybe it's not that specific thing or behavior you guys are talking about, but practicing taking responsibility in the most small ways you can is going to help you break the cycle of defensiveness, and it's going to help bring down your walls, because defensiveness is all about protection. Oh, I have to protect myself. I have to protect myself. But when you start taking responsibility and you start opening up yourself to say, "Oh, you know what? No, I am wrong about this. Oh, I am wrong about that." You don't have to feel scared and like, "Oh, just start to take responsibility little by little by little." Now, stonewalling, I used to do that a lot in the beginning of our marriage because I had zero communication skills. Y'all, I had zero communication skills. Okay. Everything that I talk about on this podcast, I have learned tooth and nail in my relationship. Okay. This is why I'm telling you and teach you guys with truth. Okay. So, and like I said, go listen to communication, go listen to conflict resolution. So I used to stonewall a lot because I just didn't know how to handle my emotions. I didn't know how to express myself. I did not know how to communicate. I did not know how to negotiate. And all those things kind of brought stress to me. So I would just shut down. That was just the easiest way for me to handle what's going on. Now, John Gottman says that the antidote to stonewalling is self-soothing. When you feel overwhelmed, which is usually what happens with stonewalling, you get this flood of emotions, or you feel like out of control, like I'm overwhelmed, I don't know what to do. When you have those feelings, it's important to take a break and calm down rather than completely shutting out your partner. This is the important thing. And this is what helped me get out of stonewalling, I would say to you. When you feel that overwhelmed feeling, it's okay to take a break. So, he's not saying that you have to sit there and like keep working on the issue. I don't think that's not going to help you. So it's okay to take a break, but you have to communicate the break. That is the difference between shutting down and taking a break. Because you may feel like shutting down is like helping you to not create conflict or to not keep the argument going, but it's making things worse. It's escalating it because now your partner can't access you. So instead of shutting down, you say, I am feeling overwhelmed. I need to take a break. Let's talk about this in the evening. You right. So and you are taking the initiative to say, hey, I'm overwhelmed right now. I need to take a break, but let's talk about this at a later time. So simply put, those are the four horsemen of the apocalypse. They are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. These are the 4 destructive communication patterns that John Gottman uses to predict divorce with 90% accuracy. I really want you guys to take the time to evaluate your relationship after you listen to this podcast and think about, are these things present in my marriage? How long have they been going on? What stage are we? Are we nearing divorce, right? Intervention is possible. And of course, I'm going to put all the resources that we use to create this episode, the book, and any articles or anything that I can find to help you really deal with the Four Horsemen. And of course, John Gottman's website to really help you guys combat this. That's all that we have for this episode. Thank you all for tuning into this episode of Black Marriage Therapy. I hope today's discussion on the Four Horsemen gave you valuable insights on what to look out for in your own relationship. If you haven't yet, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Black Marriage Therapy. Please do so for more relationship tips and insights. Thanks again for listening, and talk to you soon.